Every Tuesday, we like to visit with our friends from the OSU Extension Office and even special guests this morning. We've got the Grand Poobah, our good friend Gary Strickland, and Carl Josephy joining us remotely today. And first off, Gary, always good to visit with you, sir.
Well, Cameron, thank you for hosting us again today. We're trying a little bit different format, but I think it looks like it's going to work just fine with us today. So it's good to be here. We're doing this with some pretty wet conditions out there, which is nice for a change. We were definitely needing the moisture to come and kind of revive our dry land out there a little bit. Certainly for cotton that was planted and just coming up, it's looking good and stuff. So we're very appreciative of that. And we're blessed this morning. We've got Carl Josephy joining us from the Jackson County Farm Service Agency. And Carl, it's good to have you today. And I'm going to ask you kind of go ahead and bring us up to date on some of our county FSA programs and what's important that's going on out there that our producers need to know of from your office's perspective.
Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you, Cameron. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks for the opportunity again to speak on the radio and to share some of the programs and deadlines that we have from the Farm Service Agency. With the recent rain, I expect that cotton has come to a halt for at least a couple of days, but that's also a welcome advantage because we now can get some dryland cotton planted and up with some moisture that we haven't had. So it's a blessing. It takes a little extra time, and now the dust will be flying soon because once it does get dry, it will go as fast as it possibly can to get that seed in the ground. And along with that, once the producers are done planting the cotton, one of the reminders is that they need to be sure to contact us as soon as possible in order to make arrangements for reporting their acres. We have to have those acres reported by July the 15th, and it's going to be busy. It's going to be fast. As everyone is probably aware, unfortunately, FSA still is closed to the public, but we do have a little crack in the door, so to speak. We can allow at least one person in the office at a time under an appointment. They can come to the counter. We can work with producers at the counter and get things done as we need to for signatures, for looking at maps, for helping us draw in the areas where cotton or other crops have been planted. So we do have a little bit of assistance on that. I'm still hoping for the day that we can open this thing wide open and allow producers in, and that's the goal. But we still have to be patient. We have to be careful, and producers are able to come in the office one at a time, and we can take care of them. So acreage reporting date again for any spring and summer crops, most specifically cotton, grain sorghum, corn, and grass, and any other cropland that hasn't been planted to a crop even. All of those acres must be reported by July the 15th. So if you are close to being done, if you're a week away from being done, my suggestion is go ahead and call and make your appointment now in order to get your acres reported so you can be one of the first on the list and not be the last. We do have some changes that have occurred for 2021, specifically for producers in Jackson County. There will be some unique shares on the ARC PLC contracts. So if you participate in the ARC PLC program, one of the reminders is that whatever your risk is in the cropland acres, that same share risk that you show on the acreage report must be the same share that's on the ARC PLC contract. Now in the past, we've always done it on a standard, 1/3 share of wheat, 1/4 share of cotton for the landowner, and that may still be okay. But in the case of where a farm is 100% planted to cotton and the farm has some or all wheat base on it, the share that is on the cropland that you report your acres on will be the share that needs to be on the ARC PLC contract. Why? Well, that's the regulation. That's what the handbook says should be on there. In other words, you can't have more or less risk than what you have on the acres themselves. So that's going to be a slight change. It's very minimal in most cases. I don't expect anyone will have too much of an issue with that. Anyone that has questions, please call the office. We'll go over the details with you. We are very close to finishing up the WHIP program. We have probably close to 100 applications left to pay. We're very close to finishing that, so I hope to have that money out soon. Gary, you may remember we had the quality loss adjustment program that came out, and we finished up in late April. That program is probably going to be finished up and maybe even payments issued here in the next couple of weeks. What we're hearing is that if there is any money available left over from the WHIP program for 2019 payments, then there will be some issued payments for the QLA for only those producers who had a 5% or greater loss of quality. Now in Jackson County, the producers that applied were predominantly cotton producers. So we'll know more about that in the next few days. I don't know any payment rates. I don't know if there's even going to be a payment. It may be a payment rate of 0, but if it is anything, we will process those payments as soon as possible. On a couple of other programs, the NAP program for 2020 grass, those payments will go out this week. We'll actually finish up and process all of those payments this week. And for the 2021 wheat pasture, producers that had 2021 NAP coverage on wheat pasture in Jackson County will receive a grazing loss payment. I don't have the calculation of the dollars per acre in front of me on the average producer, but it'll be a substantial payment. And we will be processing those as soon as possible, probably in the next 60 days, Gary. We should have those out very soon. That's in addition to doing all of the acreage reports and the successions and interest and everything else we have to do. Thank goodness we have rain, and that will actually grow grass, which will also not allow us to enter into the livestock forage program. So that's a plus. That's a plus. Not that I don't want to pay payments, don't get me wrong, but we want to have grass that's actually growing in the pasture rather than making payments for grass we didn't get in the first place. Well, that's always a good thing. If any producers have any questions about eligibility for any of these programs or want to go ahead and make an appointment for the acreage reporting process, please give us a call at 580-482-4312, extension 2. And thank you, Gary. Thank you, Cameron, for all you do for agriculture.
Glad you could join us this morning, Carl. I appreciate you being with us and bringing us up to speed on some of that information. You know, you and I were talking just a moment ago that about wheat harvest, kind of where we're at and what it looks like this year. And, you know, we're circling in on that. Some samples that were cut this last week were still a little wet on that. So, and now, of course, we've had this rain across the county and area, anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches, depending on where you're at. So that's going to slow it down this week. I think that we're probably not looking at starting wheat harvest till the tail end of the week, probably first of next week, by the time things get dried down a little bit. We've had some interest. I've asked some questions. How do I think we're going to, you know, finish out? What do the yields look like? And honestly, it's tough to get a handle on it right now. Back when I did wheat acre checks, I thought we had some really good yields out there, and we did at that time. Really good yields sitting out there. It's finished off. I questioned how it was going to grain fill at the end. We needed rain right in that time period. We didn't quite get it, so I'm hoping that we finish okay on that in terms of grain fill with it. But with that, at the end here, we've seen some root rot situations out in the field, whiteheads with total white stems, which is either take all or fusarium, one of the two out there that we know has taken out a small percentage of that. We still had some freeze damage, maybe a little bit of late freeze came on from that April 20th freeze, but you know, we had some freeze damage from an earlier occurrence out there that's existing. Didn't look too heavy. And when I went back out in the fields, I still didn't see a heavy increase in those freeze damages, but you know, that's existing. But I have been getting pictures from growers with of wheat heads that have had kind of a dark, either a brownish purplish cast on the florets themselves and the grain head, and they seem to be forming grain, but the grain doesn't seem to be feeling too good. And part of what I've seen looks like black chaff and or stagnosporia, but I really think it's black chaff. Looking at it, that will impact, which is bacterial disease, which that will impact how grain feels. received a couple of pictures where it looks like we just got black mold spots on the outside of the glooms and or the florets, and I'm not quite sure on that one. It could be septoria, but I'm not really sure with that. I don't think it's stagnosporia or black chaff, but in those situations, one text in particular, they were saying those heads weren't feeling too good. So I don't know. I'm having a tough time getting a handle on how this is finishing. It looks like we've got some head diseases out there that are finishing out with this wheat. There's still quite a few wheat heads though that are doing real good. Wheat heads that are filling, even if they had partial freeze on them, are making 3 mesh nearly, or in most cases. So they're loading up on those. But I'm going to come back to the a statement we use each year. After you look around at this and everything, the proof's going to be in the pudding. When we head to the elevator, that's when we'll have an idea of how the grain's filled and what our yields look like. When we do those wheat acre checks, those are estimates and they're good for that day. It's a snapshot in time, what things look like. Like I said, at that point, it looks really good down in this area. I'm not saying that I don't think it's good. I think we've had some different things going on as we finish out here, but I still think there's good potential out there. I hope it finishes out correctly. So I'm kind of at a place now where I'm anxious with everybody else. Let's see how it finishes out and what the test weights are going to be like, what the grain yields are actually going to be like out there. There's no question that at a point there, the dry conditions along with freeze together impacted us some out there on some of our wheat. I think that got us mostly for that early April occurrence out there when it happened, that really none of us thought we had anything there, but we were really dry in that time period. And I think it kind of got us a little bit on the tops of those heads. So again, Carl, we were hoping for that rain a little bit earlier. We didn't get it for grain fill. So I hope it doesn't impact us there. And hopefully this stuff is finished out okay. So I don't know. It's got me wondering as I look around there how it's going to finish as well. But I think we're about a week from starting to see what the results are going to be out there, and should start to see some of that wheat roll in then. So I think, Cameron, I'll stop there. I don't have too much more from an ag side to report this morning. Obviously, the moisture is good. Cotton is going to jump with this. I saw some young cotton coming up the other day. It's going to love this. So some of that cotton that had been planted on that irrigated ground is going to come on through looking good. As Carl mentioned, the dryland cotton guys, they'll have moisture to plant into. So once it dries up and they can get rolling, they're definitely going to be rolling to see some of this stuff get going and coming out of the ground. So anyway, Cameron, I'm going to turn it back to you this morning then.
All right. Well, again, if you have any other questions, the OSU Extension Office is 580-477-7962. You can also call the FSA office. Carl, the number 482-4312, extension 2.
That's it. Thank you.
How about that? I got it. I do not have a single note written down in front of me. So
very impressive.
Well, Gary, Carl, I appreciate both of you guys taking some time, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Cameron, you do the same.
Thanks for the opportunity.